I saw Councillor Myers.
Yeah, he was here.
It could be the fog.
He was here, he was talking to someone.
Well, we'll give him a minute. Let us rock and roll. Good morning. I am Councillor Gord Perks for a little while, and I am the chair of the Planning and Housing Committee. We have quorum. I am now calling meeting 32 to order. Welcome, everyone. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at City Hall in Committee Room 1. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Although we may be meeting in different locations today, the Planning and Housing Committee would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. If you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Planning and Housing Committee page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. If you are present in the room and wish to register on an item, please come up to the glass partition located on my right-hand side, and a member of the clerk's staff will come to you. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on CMP, the Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at phc@toronto.ca to help with motions. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, we will proceed. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting of July 11th, 2026? June 11th. Councillor Myers. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Okay, let's do the rundown. Okay, item 1. Our Plan Toronto recommendations on the East Harbour Employment Area Conversion request. I have a motion on this. I'm going to refer the item to the Chief Planner and Executive Director, City Planning, and request that the Chief Planner report once negotiations with Cadillac Fairview and the province related to additional proposed changes to land use permissions at the East Harbour have concluded.
Isn't that part of the report?
That's in the supplementary, so I have to move it. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Item 2, Ookwemin Minising, draft plan of subdivision application decision report for approval. Does anyone want to hold that? No? Anyone want to move it? Councillor Nunziata, all those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Item 3, 235 and 245 Yorkland Boulevard, official plan amendment application decision report for approval. Does anyone want to hold that? Anyone want to move it? Councillor Nunziata. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 4, which is the Toronto Builds at Springhurst and Close, we have deputants, so I'll hold it. Item 5, the Toronto Builds item at Strachan and Wellington, we have deputants, so I'll hold it. Item 6. You know what? It's related to item 5, so I'll hold it. Item 7, which is the Billy Bishop Airport item, we have deputants. Item 8, which is the site plan application fee review, we have deputants, so I'll hold it. Item 9. Item 9, Lawrence Height Revitalization Phases 2 and 3 Infrastructure Reimbursement and Budget Update.
I'll move receipt.
Adopt?
Huh?
Move to adopt it?
Yeah, it's a recommendation. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Says receipt.
All those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Item 10, 180 Queens Drive, proposed designation under Part 4.
It's, I'll move that. It's in my ward.
Okay, Councillor Nunziata is moving that. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 11, Great Oak Drive, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. How about someone on this side contributing? Councillor Myers, Councillor Matlow? Okay, Councillor Myers is going to move that. All those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Item 12, 2 Hedgewood Road, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Councillor
I'll
Myers
move that.
is moving that. All those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Item 13, 32 Bright Street, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act.
I'll move that. All right.
Sorry, is that Councillor Crisanti's moving that?
No worries. I was just trying to jump in. It's okay.
Thank you so much for helping. So Councillor Crisanti will move that. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 14, 39 Wynford Drive, we have deputants. Item 15, 55 Elm Street, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Anyone want to do anything?
I'll do that. I'll move it.
Councillor Crisanti is moving it. All those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Item 16, 55 Sudbury Street, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Councillor Nunziata is moving that. All those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Item 17, 6278 Kingston Road, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. It's in Scarborough, so Councillor Myers is going to move it. All right. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 18, which is 7 Meadowcrest Road. There is a deputant listed. I wanted to make you aware the intention is to the intention is to defer this until the next term of council. Is the deputant here? Mirjam Schult? Miriam, I'm sorry. My eyes are really, the apocalyptic weather has made my eyes no good. Are you in agreement with deferring it until next time? So if we just do that, do you need to depute? So the options are, we can hold this and come back to it later this afternoon, hear your deputation, and then we would move to defer it until the next term. Or if you would prefer, we can just right now defer it without a deputation. Yes, it does. So that's okay? All right.
Sorry, just point of order.
Yes.
If she deputes now, she can't depute when the item gets deferred and comes back, correct?
She can. This is not a statutory matter.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. So I'll just move the deferral. All those in favor, opposed, carried. So that will come back to the first regular planning meeting of the next term, which I believe is in December, maybe January, but a notice will go out of when that meeting is. Okay? All right, thank you. Item 19, protecting tenants from fraudulent evictions. We have deputants on that. And I believe I have a piece of new business to introduce. Somewhere in here. Councillor Matlow, do you want to move to introduce it?
Oh, yes. The expiry date for protection of heritage properties listed in the Ontario Heritage Act, P32. So do I need to read it all out? Or?
No, just tell us you'd like to introduce that new business on the heritage property.
I would very much like to introduce this.
Okay. All those in favor of adding to the agenda, opposed if any, that carries. Okay. So we'll leave that for a little while so members have an opportunity to read it and it can be publicly posted. And with that, we return to item 4. PH 32, Toronto Builds, 78 Springhurst. I just need to find my deputies list. Where did that one go? Okay, so I have a couple of deputants listed. First is Carrie Culver. Is Carrie online? No? I don't see anyone in the room. Okay, so we'll move to the next deputant, Jason Miles. Jason Miles. Okay, Jason's not here. And finally, Andrew Boozery. I didn't see Andrew here. Andrew, are you online? Oh, Carrie's online. I'm too old to adapt to hybrid meetings.
We don't have a Karen.
Carrie, the first deputy. Carrie, you need to unmute yourself at your end. We've given you all the necessary permissions at our end. Oh, there we are. Hi, Carrie, I can see you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Carrie, I've just been informed by the clerks that we published notice for this item to go at 10 o'clock, which means we have to twiddle our thumbs for 4 minutes. I'm so sorry. We'll call you again in 4 minutes. The law is the law, folks. Yeah, I notice all the lurking clerks went away. There we go. Okay. Yeah, but any deputation will take.
Anyone want to sing a song?
Okay. But there's like 4 speakers on that. No, 5. I don't want to do that. No. Is there anything that's just one person? You know what? Here's a novel idea. there are a lot of benefits listed on those. I don't want to do those right now. Have members had a chance to look at Councillor Matlow's piece of new business on heritage properties? Councillor Matlow, why don't you take 2.5 minutes and explain it to us?
Do I have to?
Yes.
Could I have the motion in front of me? You want me to run the clock? Well, I'm moving a motion that City Council request the Premier and the Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism to make a regulation under the Ontario Heritage Act, granting a further extension of 3 years from January 1st, 2027 to January 1st, 2030, for any property listed on a municipal register to be formally designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. I also am asking that City Council request the Mayor to work with the Greater Toronto Hamilton area, yes, the entire area, municipalities and Association of Municipalities of Ontario, in regard to the matter on seeking an extension to the Ontario Heritage Act timeframe for the designation of properties listed on a municipal register, and that City Council forward this item to the GTHA municipalities and AMO for information. The provincial government has made a decision to forcefully remove heritage-listed properties and make it very, very difficult to ensure that there is a reasonable time frame to be able to consider whether or not these properties be fully designated. It makes it difficult for our heritage planning staff to do the work that they love and are committed to doing, and it also risks the demolition of countless properties throughout our city and across Ontario that we value and want to see preserved. There is in my opinion, a very false narrative that sometimes ensues in these debates over planning between the need for housing and progress and ensuring that there's adequate housing supply and protecting what we also love and value. I believe that good planning can accommodate both. That good planning means that we have housing supply, we have supply of affordable units, we have school capacity and parks and infrastructure, and yes, places like Sneaky D's and great cultural institutions to enjoy, along with preserving what we have always loved that really tells us who we are. I just co-hosted an event last night in the council chambers showing a film about Old City Hall. Old City Hall was almost demolished when the Eden Centre was going to be built. And in fact, it's faced several moments where we could have lost it, like so many other great Romanesque and other buildings that we just, has always been part of our architectural story. And fortunately, not only was it preserved, but there are real efforts now to bring it back to life and introduce it back to the public again, along with hosting a Museum of Toronto, which also will share the stories of our city, the many stories of the people of our city, the culture of our city, and the architectural heritage of our city. How long would you like me to speak? 30 seconds. 30 seconds? The story of Toronto goes back thousands of years. And even the first peoples who walked these lands, I walk along Davenport, which was an indigenous trail. It was actually on the shore of the ancient Lake Iroquois. Yes, one of the reasons that I fight for the waterfront in downtown Toronto is that in Midtown we used to have a waterfront too, and I'll tell you all about that another time.
Another time. Okay. That's an awful lot of personal information there, Councilman.
Thank you for that.
It's very historic. In fact, there should be a plaque marking that. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, on Councillor Matlow's item, all those in favor, opposed, carried. All right. We have a small issue. In our enthusiasm to wind up planning and housing for the term, we went quickly past item PH 32. However, that too was a statutory item that was timed for 10 o'clock. 32.3. So thank you, Nancy. Without Nancy, I would be adrift. I need a motion to reconsider item PH 32.3, 235 and 245 Yorkland Boulevard. Councillor Myers, all those in favor of reopening it, opposed if any, that carries. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to item PH 32.3? Seeing none, I'd like to move item PH 32.3. All those in favor, opposed if any, that carries. Okay, that takes us back to item 32.4, where we had deputants, and we're going to try again to get Carrie Culver here. Carrie? Hi, Carrie. We've unmuted you at our end. You should be able to address the committee now.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. All right. Well, good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carrie Culver, and I am the Chief Planning Officer at the University Health Network. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of the application for Dunn House Phase 2, located on the UHN-owned lands at 78 Springhurst Avenue and 1 and 3 Close Avenue. At UHN, we recognize that health is influenced by far more than the care delivered within our hospital walls, and that stable and affordable housing is one of the most important factors affecting health, well-being, and recovery. This understanding has led UHN to make a long-term commitment to integrate housing with healthcare supports. Through Dunn House, we have demonstrated how institutional land can be used in partnership with the city, community organizations, and service providers to create housing solutions that improve individual and community health outcomes. Dunn House Phase 2 represents the next step in this commitment. This next phase in the proposed development will expand supportive housing opportunities for older adults and build upon the success of the existing program, further advancing the shared objectives of UHN, the City of Toronto, to create healthier, more inclusive, and resilient communities. UHN believes the program for Dunn House 2 represents an appropriate and thoughtful use of the site. It reflects years of planning, collaboration, and engagement, and supports broader municipal goals related to housing, health, and community well-being. When people have a safe place to call home and access to the services and supports they need, they are better able to manage their health and maintain stability. On behalf of UHN, I would like to thank the city planning staff, Councillor Perks, city divisions, community partners, who have all contributed to the review and advancement of this application. We request that the committee approve the proposed application, as this project will enable UHN, the City of Toronto, and its community partners to continue delivering a proven model that addresses both housing and health needs while contributing positively to the future of the Parkdale community and the City of Toronto. Thank you for providing us the opportunity to speak today and for your commitment and support of Dunn House Phase 2.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? No, seeing none. Carrie, thank you so much for your deputation and your fine work on this initiative. Next, Jason. I think I saw you, Jason. Come on up. So Jason, you've done this before. You've got 5 minutes. You can start as soon as you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Miles, and I live at Dunn House. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Before I moved into Dunn House, life was unstable. When you don't have a safe place to live, it's hard to think about anything else. Every day becomes about surviving, finding somewhere to sleep, figuring out your next meal, and getting through each day. Your health suffers, your relationships suffer, the people that care about you suffer, and after a while it becomes difficult to believe that things can ever get better. Having a home changed that. For the first time in a long time, I had a place where I felt safe. I could sleep through the night, focus on my health, and start building routines that other people take for granted. I wasn't given a roof over my head. I was given the opportunity to rebuild my life. What makes Dunn House special isn't just the apartment, it's the people. The staff know you by name, the healthcare supports are there when you need them, the sense of community reminds you that you're not alone. For me, it has meant regaining confidence, rebuilding trust, and beginning to look forward to the future again, instead of just worrying about making it through until tomorrow. I know firsthand that the social medicine housing model works because I'm living proof of it. Truth be told, this past year I've spent rebuilding and standing up for the rights of others has been the happiest and most meaningful year of my life. A year I'm certain I wouldn't have lived to see if I had not been given housing when I had been. Today you're considering whether more people should have the same opportunity that I have, and I hope you'll say yes. Behind every application, every proposal, every decision is a person whose life will be changed by having a safe place to call home. Dunn House Phase 2 isn't just about creating more housing. It's about creating more opportunities for people to heal, to regain their independence, and build a better future. Everyone deserves a chance to have a safe place to call home and the support they need to move forward with their lives. Finally, regaining housing comes with its own challenges after living a long period of life without it. And the complete circle of support that's built into the social medicine model helps make that transition work. Approving Dunn House Phase 2 means giving more people the tools and resources that I needed to ground myself, learn to live life again without the constant crisis, and find my way back again. Thank you for listening, and thank you for considering this important project.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you so much for your courage and hard work. Are there any questions for Jason? I mean, I've got a million, but not today.
Another time.
Another time.
Back home.
Back, yeah, back in the hood. Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff on this? No? Oh, sorry, there's another deputy. Where is my head today? Andrew. I don't see you in the room. Is Andrew online? No, Andrew's not online. Are there any questions of staff? No? Does anyone want to speak to the item? Well, I'll speak to the item. So, members, a lot of people are becoming familiar with the Dunn House project, so I won't go through the whole history of it and what it's about. I just want to make a couple of observations about the ways in which this investment in social medicine turns several widely held beliefs about government on their head. First, this is an example, a true example of efficiency. It is unbelievably expensive to all of us to have people who are homeless and showing up in emergency rooms or showing up at police stations. It contributes to a little bit of a moral panic when we see people in distress on our transit system or on a bench in a park. But here, we're actually saving public money by making a public investment. Too often, the idea of efficiency is described as, you know, cutting the public service or cutting expenses or something like that. But this is a clear example of by making an investment in people who live in Toronto, we make Toronto safer, but also reduce our tax burden. So it turns that on its head. There's also this idea that government, and you hear this all the time, should steer but not row. This idea that we need to partner with the private sector because it's more efficient. And you wind up with these strange things called public-private partnerships, which, you know, if you've been following the construction of some of Metrolinx's projects, you know how those go. In contrast, this is a public-public partnership between the City of Toronto, the UHN, a public entity, and the two other orders of government who are providing money. It's when the public institutions that belong to people work in concert to achieve outcomes that we really find a way forward. The private sector is not efficient in dealing with problems like this. They may be really good at making widgets, but in terms of making the investments that really build a future, both for individual people and for our city, it's the public-public partnerships that make the way forward. And the final expectation that this turns on its head is that, well, it's that term bureaucracy, which is sometimes used as sort of a negative word. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a couple of heroes, Matt and Dan, who have been involved in stewarding this work forward in a good way, working closely with community, working with big hearts, as well as really sharp minds, showing just the excellence that we have in the Toronto Public Service in finding really good ways to make Toronto a better place to live and to make individual lives better. Thank you so much for your work, both of you. Okay, now after I said all that, I certainly hope this item passes. So I'm moving it. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Well done all. Okay, that takes us to item PH 32.5, Toronto Builds, 53 Strachan Avenue and 805A Wellington Street West, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, application decision report for approval. We got a couple of deputants on this. Also, could I just ask if someone could get in touch with Deputy Mayor Malik? I know she has some thoughts on this item as well.
She's here, I've seen her come in.
Okay.
Oh, she's at City Hall.
Yeah. If someone could maybe just contact her. I think we thought it would take longer to get to this item. All right. So the first deputant we have listed is Richard Douglas. Hi, Richard, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. And Richard is what they call me as a little kid in the Teachers Academy. But I'm Sandy, and Sandy Douglas. And Councillor
Sandy.
Perks, you and
Of
I
course.
met when you were down at Exhibition Place when I worked there.
Yes, Sandy, I recall.
It's good seeing you again,
It's
sir.
good to see you again.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and Councillor Malik has joined us. I am president of the condo board at 15 Stafford Street, where I live, which is right across the street from the building in question. I'm not a public speaker, and I apologize in advance if I seem a tad discombobulated or I impinge upon set protocols of this committee. I have not heard from anyone in the area say no to the supportive housing initiative. It was here and operational when most of us, 15 and 18 Stafford, moved in. We hope that the operator of the building, I believe is going to be Homes First, will be provided with a sufficient means to operate and provide the necessities for residents, thus eliminating any reoccurrence of the problems that plagued the previous establishment. To recognize, acknowledge the essence of the existing neighborhood and to maximize financial accountability and responsibility, we further add, eliminate the mixed income building, turn the supportive building 180 degrees, and move west to Strachan. Create a parking area for staff, support workers, and delivery vehicles easterly to Maple Green, which is 805 Wellington, and leave the Garrison Gardens intact. Regarding the process used and the information provided by the city hired facilitators, it started off with a very private meeting with the garden, the people that run the Garrison Garden. And they were assuaged saying, oh, we'll give you another spot. So they were quiet. And then we had the public meeting on April 15th. And it came out of that quite loudly in the initial responses that there were plants, 5 or 6 people in the audience who kept talking about higher and faster. And this was denied by the city's facilitators, but they did skew the votes or the comments that were listed in the final report of higher and faster. They stated that they mailed out 9,000 meeting notices in a 300-meter radius. I live 10 meters away and did not receive any invitation, nor did many of the residents of my building, nor at 18 Stafford. Canada Post is not the communication method used by many of today's residents. Many mailboxes in our building go unopened for weeks at a time because people don't think there's going to be anything there of value. In a number of these documents that were presented, there were different addresses, 57 Strachan and 801 Wellington. 801 Wellington is in the middle of the park. And 57 Strachan, if it ever existed, I guess it did, was eliminated when they built the bridge over the GO tracks and up express tracks at Strachan and Wellington. It doesn't exist. So the question is, to what purpose are these addresses used? At this meeting, there was a traffic analysis that was unbelievably unrealistic in its presentation. I spoke to some city folks afterwards, and they agreed that it was poor. There's going to be no resident parking. People will walk, take transit, use an Uber. How and when? How will people get their families, their kids to extracurricular activities like hockey and soccer and baseball? And promises of improved King TTC transit times will be address today's issues, maybe. Painting a few red lines on King Street isn't going to do it, and it certainly won't fix the future. We waited 5 weeks for a meeting summary and only given 5 days to respond. Then there was a total rewrite. They admitted there was no new park, just a redo that will be smaller than current size. The summary was prepared to disguise actual concerns raised by attendees. For example, the foundation is stable, but in actuality, the first floor is crumbling and it's currently supported by dozens of jack posts. There's questions re schools. Oh, we'll get back to that. Nothing was said, and in fact, to date, nothing's been said about schools.
Sandy, I'm going to ask you to stop there. You're
Yep.
at time. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Sandy? No? Sandy, it was great seeing you again.
Sorry it takes so long.
No. Okay, the next deputant I have listed is Linda Butler. Linda, I understand you're online. Linda?
I tried the thing that says your video, Linda.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Linda, you've got 5 minutes. You can address the committee as soon as you're ready.
And you can see me?
It'll come up in a minute. Just go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Linda Butler, and I reside at 18 Stafford Street. At mid-rise, it sits across from the 805 Wellington Street West site. Thank you for this opportunity. to present my thoughts about the proposed developments in our neighborhood. I certainly welcome the city's decision to replace Strachan House, left vacant for many years, with a new structure, a new home for some of the many people in need of supportive housing in our city. And oh, it says start video. I don't know, is that right? In our city. However, I have concerns about the project as it now stands. Regarding the proposal itself, I think I can say with confidence that many of us in the community, in the neighborhood, have been shocked by the suggestion that the city take this opportunity to care for the needy and turn it into a large-scale housing project with inadequate supports in the neighborhood. And also for the city to take the opportunity to suggest that an established green space and habitat, a community garden created over a quarter century ago, for the city to take this opportunity to seize that green space and put an 8-story building on the site, giving downtown Toronto a net loss of precious green space. Garrison Flats Community Garden is a site of established habitat as well as a sanctuary for flowers, vegetables, and trees. The proposal notes, quote, the continuation of existing community garden in the adjacent park, end quote, meaning cordoning off a substantial plot of land from the park to accommodate a space for the community garden to be reestablished. Definitely a net loss of green space plus a loss of general use in the park. That 8-story building is intended to serve people in need. And I think my neighbors do not oppose this in any way, other than to encourage the city to shift that building to the old Strachan House site just to the west, and to remove this very poorly thought out high-rise from the project altogether. In this way, people in need will be served and established green space will be preserved. More about the high-rise. This proposed high-rise would be erected in the immediate vicinity of 4 other high-rises to be built just down the street at 2 Tecumseh, as well as the new housing project already being built on the corner of Strachan and King, a half block away from Strachan House. That's already a lot of people coming to a notoriously busy, crowded, and joyful neighborhood, which struggles to manage transit, schools, and traffic issues. The notion that the high-rise would be a carless building ignores the fact that services, ambulances, Wheel-Trans, Ubers, delivery people, visitors, residents, etc., must all be attending any such building. Sorry, I'm losing my place here. And never mind one proposed to sit on a narrow 2-lane street with a 2-way bike lane immediately in front of the proposed building with no space for parking and or deliveries or pickups. These issues are there for the 8-story building as well, but at least it's not a high-rise and an unnecessary one at that. The 8-story building is needed, and the designers of this project should put their focus on solutions to these issues. I don't see any resolution, unfortunately, that does not include interrupting the bike lanes in front of the building to allow driving in and out of the property. I suggest that there be a driveway that circles to the back of the building to give some space for servicing the building and its occupants without tying up traffic and cycling on Wellington more than absolutely necessary. I live at 18 Stafford, mid-rise. It was originally intended to front on Wellington, immediately in front of Strachan House, but the city stepped in rather late in the game and insisted the entrance to the building must not be on Wellington. So last-minute changes were made, and our entrance is at the corner of Stafford and Kenneth. Please note this was over 20 years ago, and the traffic uses in this neighborhood have increased enormously, including the vast community of Liberty Village. Clearly, it was wise of the city then to make that change, so I find this proposal now in 2026 to be very questionable. We need to go back to the drawing board.
Thank you, Linda. Are there any questions for Linda? No, seeing none. Thank you so much for your deputation today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Next, I have Talia Pankowicz. Talia? Is Talia online? No? And not in the room? Okay. We'll move to Anne Elizabeth Beach Johnson. Good morning. Is the little green light on in front of you?
There.
There we go.
So I am opposing this requested amendment to the official plan and zoning bylaw. There's no question that we, the community, are in favor and want more affordable and supportive housing here. My opposition is to the scale of the project as now proposed. What was, I believe, the idea of replacing and expanding on the Strachan House role and site has now become a large housing project with questionable community supports. The fact that there are so many similar housing projects approved and underway in this community truly questions all the infrastructure, traffic, and other community supports in the area needed. This project should not be looked at in isolation. The other consequence of the proposal is that it will totally destroy a large community garden that was begun 29 years ago and has nearly 60 plots and over 100 people involved. The project proposes a new community garden will be made in the adjacent parkland. This means that years of established plants and trees and habitat will be destroyed. Community garden members have proposed a plan to maintain all or part of the existing garden site while still accommodating development. To simply move a garden on paper plans is certainly different in reality from the years of growth and habitat that have been established. Also, the area that is proposed for use is a very low area that is a drainage area when there is much rain in the park. The consequence means the city green means that city green space will be lost. The parkland that is proposed for that new community garden is presently well used by many neighborhood people and dog walkers. I put a couple of website photos into this that I sent in, which probably not time to look at now, but just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak out against the idea that we need so many at rent type of housing to support what we need, the support of housing. And I think that there should be other imaginative and creative ways in managing that in our city. And thanks for your consideration in this proposal as we all work toward improvement as well as change in our city.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. The next deputant is John Polari. John? Oh, they were taken off? Okay. Mark Richardson. And guess what? Mark's online. Mark deputes online from a variety of locations. I fully expect to get him on the space shuttle one day. Oh,
you've only got me in Calgary today, where I'm visiting affordable housing sites with Attainable Homes Calgary staff.
Okay.
Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear me? Okay.
You're great, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay. Can I share my screen as well? Content sharing is unavailable.
Can we give sharing permission to Mark? Okay, we've given that to you.
Okay, do you see my picture now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, my name is Mark Richardson. I'm the volunteer technical lead with Housing Now TO. An earlier speaker referred to city plants in the audience. I'm assuming that refers to our volunteers and volunteers from More Neighbours who attended the public meetings about this site. A lot of us are local residents. Talia, who was going to speak earlier, is from More Neighbours. She's unable to speak this morning because she's at work. And people with day jobs can't show up at City Hall at 10:30 on a Thursday morning to speak against an affordable housing and market housing development on city-owned lands. So councillors, our Housing Now TO affordable housing development volunteers have been actively involved in assessing and supporting the redevelopment of the city-owned lands at 805 Wellington Street since the floor collapsed there in 2019 and had to be shored up prior to the Homes First supportive housing organization vacating the site. In 2023 and 2024, our Housing Now TO volunteers and industry mentors worked with the University of Toronto School of Cities Multidisciplinary Urban Capstone Program to conduct a full site viability assessment of this site and provided our financially stress-tested report on affordable housing redevelopment opportunities to both the City of Toronto's Housing Secretariat and Create TO in the spring of 2024. Our volunteers fully support both the 8-story supportive housing development and the 28-story redevelopment submission for the adjacent tower, which is needed to pay for the affordable housing on this site. There is no magic money tree. The 8-story building includes 81 new supportive housing units in a standalone building A, along with 236 market rate buildings and apartments, which will then also include 60 more affordable housing units in the new tower referred to as Building B. While our Housing Now TO volunteers are 100% in support of this new affordable housing redevelopment project and the on-site heritage retention and rebuild as proposed at 805 Wellington Street, we believe that it is crucial to the public interest that we have a lot of transparency around these Toronto Builds initiative sites. We would like them to be highly transparent by default. We submitted a letter and we would therefore respectfully request the following supplementary information be provided to staff, by staff before this item goes to full council later in July. We need a clear explanation for the city staff choice matrix that resulted in only having a 40-year affordability period for the 60 new affordable units within Building B in the current staff report under Toronto Builds, versus the 99-year affordability period that was achieved under other sites developed via private partnerships during the city's earlier Housing Now program between 2019 and 2024. There's clearly a lot of confusion about what it takes to make these projects work and how having deeper affordability, supportive housing, a lot of heritage retention on this site creates a greater burden on the project that now the city has to fully cover because it's not going with a private development partner. We would also like a correction to the financial impact section of the concurrent heritage report from Heritage Planning PH 32.6 to more accurately reflect the financial impact to the city in future years of the in situ heritage retention and rebuild on this Toronto Build site. Finally, as Toronto Builds is rolling out, we would really like to see a commitment from the city and the Toronto Builds organization to return back to a very transparent model that TCHC used to have back in 2011 and earlier, where there was a public project completion report. It was provided at the end of each project at final occupancy. And we'd like to see this for every Toronto Builds project, including a project overview, including a building program that defines what was built on the site, the unit types and the rental structure that are being used on the site, the difference between what was budgeted, what it actually cost per square foot and what it ended up costing at the end of the day, the impacts of the schedule, lessons learned from this project so that we can roll those lessons into the next item. So once again, we fully support this site. We are just asking for some additional transparency around it. And we would be happy to answer any questions that anybody on the council has about either of the letters we submitted on this site today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions for Mark? No? Mark, as always, thanks for your comments today.
Councillor Perks, let me just say thank you for your service. I will miss you.
I'll miss you too, Mark. Maybe we can just schedule regular webinars and argue about the role of the state in housing. There you go. Okay. Are there any other members of the public who wish to make a deputation on this item? Seeing, oh, yes. Hi. That's okay. It's a statutory item. We'll make an allowance. If you could come up and introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, there we go. Good morning, everyone. My name is Allison Savage. I'm a resident at 15 Stafford, and I've lived there for 6 years and used the TTC to get to and from work every day in those 6 years. Many of the issues, I'm not going to repeat things that other people have already said. I think it's very important for the council to note that there are hundreds of local residents who are against this project. So while there may be a small number who are in support of it, there is a much, much larger number who are against it. But as a regular TTC user, I will tell you, many mornings I wait for 5 streetcars on King at the corner of King and Strachan before I'm able to get on one. The idea of putting thousands of new residents in our neighborhood. There are already 2 condos going up at the corner of King and Strachan, so we're going to have 2 new towers there. We have 4 towers going up on Tecumseh, just a block away. We are already getting 6 new towers in this neighborhood with transit that already doesn't work. Yes, the Ontario line will come one day, but Ford has said that's 10 years away. I think it's incredibly unfair to say the residents of this neighborhood have to suffer for 10 years until there's adequate transit to support this building. The previous speaker said there's no magic money tree. Of course there isn't, but to put all these for-profit units in our neighborhood and to increase the bills so significantly to keep an old chimney that is supposed to be a heritage chimney is ridiculous and is incredibly unfair to the people who live in the area. So I ask the council to really, truly listen to the residents of this neighborhood and what isn't wanted. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the deputant? No, seeing none. Are there any other members of the public who wish to make a deputation on this item? No? So that completes the deputations. Are there any questions of staff? No? Okay. Councillor Nunziata has questions.
A few of the deputants mentioned the community garden. Can you just tell me if it's private, public, and what the status is of that community garden?
Through the chair, the community garden is currently located on public lands. It's a part of the development site. The proposal is to move the community garden to the site, the redeveloped park at 801 Wellington, immediately to the east. Currently, it's available to public users on a waiting list, and it's been around, as is noted, for the last 30 years.
Does the city manage the community garden?
Through the chair, it's owned by the city. The land is owned by the city, and Parks and Recreation is involved. However, it's a separate, the Garrison Community Flats Garden is a separate entity, not related to the city.
Parks and Rec is involved in that community garden that's run by Parks and Rec. I just want to confirm that. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? No? We'll go to speakers then. Deputy Mayor Malik.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Planning and Housing Committee. It's always a delight when you come and share your wisdom with us.
Thank you. It's always lovely to be here. Thank you very much, Chair. I want to begin by thanking all the residents who have spoken today and also who have been engaged with my office, whether it's from the preservation of the community garden as we continue to move forward on the projects on this site, as well as sharing with me very clearly what I have heard. Number one, incredible support for supportive housing on this site, making sure that we move on that as a matter of priority and to ensure that the work that we do together is responsive to the questions and the concerns that have been raised. And I want to thank Creatio staff and city staff for taking that on board to ensure that we are moving forward and keeping supportive housing on track and that we continue to engage the community to ensure what we are able to deliver on this site is a success on all counts. I look forward to our work together, and I am grateful for the committee chair for moving forward a motion on my behalf that I worked with Creatio and city planning staff to do just that, to accomplish those two important priorities.
Thank you. We'll take it into committee. Are there any members of the committee who want to speak to the item? No? Okay, I will then. All right, to begin with, I'm going to move the motion that Deputy Mayor Malik spoke about. It does a couple of things. First, it replaces one of the second recommendation, and adds two new recommendations. Effectively, what it does is keep the supportive housing piece on track and on time, and give us a little bit more time for conversation and consultation on the other building. That's the motion. Does anyone have any questions of the mover? No? Does anyone else want to speak? We are models of efficiency today, people. Models of efficiency. Okay, so on Deputy Mayor Malik's motion that I'm moving on her behalf, all those in favor, opposed, carried. On the item as amended, all those in favor, opposed, carried. You've been very persuasive once again.
Now, item 7, we held it down. It's pertaining to this item, so I'll just move it.
Okay, and item 6, I think. That's the...
Item 6.
Item 6? Okay, let me just...
So, Chair, the clerks does have a motion just responding to the amendment that was just approved.
Okay. So I'm going to move a technical amendment on item 6 that basically ties item 6 to what we just did in the future. Long story short. Any questions of the mover? No? Anyone else wish to speak? No? All those in favor of the amendment? That's it, because it's a strike and replace. Okay, so that carried. And now we can go to the next item on our agenda. Oh, just this little old thing. PH 32.7, Billy Bishop Airport proposed expansion, response to council request for information on housing and transportation impacts. We have some deputants. Michael. Is Michael here? Come on up, Michael. You know what? Let's just give 30 seconds for the folks on the previous item to clear the room and settle down. And then I'll start your time in a moment.
There we go. I'm red-green colorblind.
Just take a sec, Michael. There's a lot of noise and traffic in the room while we bring in our late substitutions in final time. Okay, is everybody ready? Just about?
I just wanted to take this time to say...
Just one sec, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. Got to make sure Annalie has a comfortable and important seat up in the front row. There we go. All good? All right.
Just wanted to say thank you to the chair, Gord Perks, for the way you handled the Planning and Housing Committee meetings and injecting a little bit of humor every now and then. And I'd like to say that it's been a business doing pleasure with you.
Good one. Good one. I like that. Okay.
You can use it.
I'll use it. Go ahead.
Chair Perks and members of the Planning and Housing Committee. My name is Michael Bethke, and I'm speaking on behalf of the East Waterfront Community Association. EWCA represents the residents of East Bayfront and Lower Young precincts. Today, I want to speak about one theme, trust. My written submission to this committee asked how decision makers must weigh the benefits and costs of jet operations at Billy Bishop Airport against Toronto's waterfront, climate, and planning goals. This weighing exercise has to begin with a simple question: who has earned the public's trust to guide that decision? The answer, frankly, is not Ports Toronto, now the Toronto Port Authority, and not the federal government process acting on incomplete information. Ports Toronto closed down the Billy Bishop Toronto City Airport Community Liaison Committee in 2025. This was the public forum for resident associations and other agencies to discuss airport matters that affected the waterfront. The Government of Canada put out a survey to measure the views of residents on the proposed expansion of the airport. Ottawa asked people to answer a survey and provide feedback on key issues without first ensuring that the respondents have an understanding of the issues involved. In both cases, disclosure and transparency are sorely lacking. So when we ask how decision makers should weigh benefits and costs of jet operations, we have to be honest about what is known and what is not. Some things are known. We know city staff have said they were not given a comprehensive plan, business case, or rationale sufficient to evaluate the airport expansion proposal in full. We know the issues extend beyond the airport operations into waterfront planning, housing, transportation, environmental effects, and community compatibility. We know the tripartite framework exists to manage exactly these kinds of impacts. Some things remain unknown, unresolved, or misrepresented. We still do not have a complete, public, independently testable record on the real cumulative impacts for the future operations linked to a broader airport change. We do not have a full public business case demonstrating that the claimed benefits of jet operations outweigh the planning, waterfront, and climate costs to Toronto. We do not have confidence that the optimistic claims about mitigation, cleaner technologies, or governance streamlining solve the fundamental compatibility problem between an expanded airport and a growing waterfront. This is why the City of Toronto matters so much at this moment. The city is not perfect, but the record shows something important. When residents pushed for answers, city staff acknowledged where more information was needed. In staff report presented today, further information was needed on the proposed noise wall, that further engagement was required with the community and the noise subcommittee, and that these broader changes were better assessed through a future airport master plan process. That is what institutional trust looks like. Not pretending that evidence is complete, but admitting where it is not. The city is the party that has the planning responsibilities to residents. The city is the party that has to think about waterfront neighborhoods, schools, daycares, parks, complete communities, and the long-term integrity of the central waterfront vision. And the city is the level of government most clearly grounded in the daily reality of people who bear those costs. So my asks are straightforward. Please support the staff reports going on to the next step. Please state clearly that trust has broken down because the public has too often been asked to accept assurance in place of evidence. Please insist that known issues and unresolved unknowns be put squarely before the federal government. And please ensure that Toronto uses every role it still holds, including its position under the tripartite framework and its planning mandate, to influence federal decision-making and defend waterfront, climate, and planning goals that residents were promised. In this matter, Toronto must be the voice that the public can trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions for the deputy? No? Michael? It's been a business doing pleasure with you. Next, I have Diana Chan McNally. Hi, Diana. I think you know how to do this, right?
Frequent flyer, you know how it is.
Not a flyer, no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, good point. As mentioned, my name is Diana Chan McNally, and I am a resident of Parkdale High Park who resides just minutes from the waterfront, my dedicated green space along with thousands of my immediate neighbors. Across the ward, people have actually been crystal clear. They do not want to see jets or an expanded airport on our waterfront. In fact, I have launched my own petition specifically on stopping the airport expansion, which has garnered over 1,500 signatures from across Parkdale High Park alone. This petition specifically asks my MP, Kareem Bardisi, to utilize federal powers to stop the expansion. To date, he has not entertained this idea, nor has the broader caucus of MPs across Toronto, and you know this as well as I do. Last month, I traveled 350 kilometers to Ottawa to deliver 550 of those signatures to my MP, and on Friday, I plan to deliver over 1,000 more to his office. But like many of you, I am compelled to wonder, what will it take to get upper levels of government to listen to their own constituents to stop this ludicrous expansion plan? By contrast, I continue to applaud the efforts by the City of Toronto to oppose the proposed airport expansion and the outrageous overreach by the provincial government to shut out the city from the tripartite agreement. This is yet another move to erode Toronto's democracy, and I unequivocally support you in fighting back. At the same time, I am also here to fight with you. And alongside every other deputant here today, everyone who has signed a petition or hung a No Jets TO sign, and every single person who enjoys our waterfront. I'm also very much here to continue highlighting the impacts jets on our waterfront will have on air quality for those of us who live in proximity to the water. City staff have highlighted this as a major public health concern, a concern that will require tens of thousands of residences to be retrofitted to maintain a basic level of safe air quality inside our own homes. Beyond asking who would even be responsible for these costs, we know that right now Toronto is experiencing the worst air quality in the world. You just have to step outside to realize that. But wildfire smoke descending on our city is seasonal and will last a few days, possibly a few weeks. And this is, of course, is not to downplay the serious risk of smoke and ash and what they pose to our public health right now, let alone the devastation that wildfires are causing to people and planet, especially to Indigenous people living in northern reserves. But instead of a few days seasonally, we are facing year-round, highly compromised air quality across our waterfront. It is unacceptable to actively force Torontonians who live on or access the waterfront to be forced to breathe unsafe air 24/7. Why would we willingly subject people to this devastating public health risk? We also know that our water quality will be severely impacted, something the city has worked very, very hard to improve over the past 2 decades. Excuse me. Got to get it out, you know? As well, we know that new housing, fragile ecosystems, and the already outrageous traffic in proximity to Bathurst Quay will be impacted, all of which should be in themselves and alone licensed enough to shut down the airport expansion plan or lack thereof, full stop. In fact, the more the city learns about the potential impacts of expanding Billy Bishop, the more it's clarified that this project poses an unacceptable threat to our city. But what galls me, and what I'm sure absolutely is appalling to everyone else in this room, is who benefits from this plan, because it clearly isn't people like you and me. It is resoundingly clear that this project has been pushed forward through highly questionable, possibly illegal means to benefit an American investment bank, JP Morgan, all at the expense of public health, housing, and we're in the midst of a housing crisis, and access to public space. I say this with absolutely zero respect to JP Morgan and their shadowy acolytes, but our waterfront is priceless, our health is priceless, and I have no intention of letting them take these things away from us for the sake of their profits. And so I am always very, very ready to fight with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the deputy? Diana, thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Jenkins. Hi, Ron. How are you today?
I hope you'll see my screen in a moment.
Is there no one? Just give us a sec, Ron.
There we are. Good. Oh, I don't see my countdown. Oh, the countdown timers are here. Okay. Yeah, so I'm Ron Jenkins. I'm a member of the Waterfront for All committee and also a sailor at the National Yacht Club. I'd like to thank the Planning and Housing Committee for giving me a chance to speak today and for their insightful and important report on this topic. In it, they talk about a couple of issues that I want to touch on today: water quality and marine use on the waterfront. And in particular, I want to take a close focus just to look at the Sailing and Racing School at the National Yacht Club. National Yacht Club's been on the waterfront since 1890. And the year before the airport opened, that's a group of National Yacht Club members, 1938. The Sailing and Racing School currently sails just off the airport in the west. And this sailing school probably processes about 500 or 600 students through a summer. Not all, by any means, are members of the club. It's open to the public as well. And it's produced a lot of very good sailors. In fact, some Olympians won a silver medalist. So the younger sailors sail right in close by the club. The older ones are off Hanlon's Beach. And I've also drawn a little red circle around a spot that I want to talk about a little bit more in a moment. So the youngest sailors are really just 180 meters from the runway, and they can sail right up to where the taxiway is. They could throw an apple and hit an airplane. Not a recommended policy, but they could do that. They're that close. And the land facility is just a mere 150 meters from the taxiway. The 2013 Porter proposal did lead to health reports that were quite useful in understanding things. And then, of course, this more current report complements it. But one thing I did notice in the planning, or in the Golder report from 2013, was that when you looked at the risk contours, they never crossed onto the water. The water was always blue, as if sailors and boaters aren't supposed to breathe and don't go onto the water. It would be nice if future demonstrations of risk actually incorporated the water users. I know that information was in the technical content. So these boats do launch just 175 meters from the water, and these young sailors can't be counted on to stay out of the water. The Golder report did mention the things that they might find in the water, which I won't take the time to read now, as my time ticks down. The current proposal would run right across that sailing area and constrain navigation through there. Also, I've circled the upper circle in red relates to water quality. In particular, it identifies where there are some combined sewer outflows, right where the sailors are spending their time. And of course, if you were to close off that Western Gap flow more, that sewer outflow would be much more concentrated in that area. In fact, that little bit of outer harbor actually becomes a bit of the inner harbor for all practical purposes. Other health risks here, of course, I won't go into in detail. They were covered in the Board of Health just earlier this week, fine particulate matter and noise effects in particular. So I'll skip those pages. But I will want to talk just a moment about jet blast risks. Jet blast is the force that an airplane expels, And the Porter proposal environmental assessment showed a jet blast barrier of that sort, but also pointed out that jet blast wind speed at the edge of the marine exclusion zone boundary could cause small recreational boats to become unstable or at risk of capsizing. And there is no mitigation for these small boats. They will be affected whether there's a jet blast effect deflector or not. The recommended policy is to post a notice saying stay away.
Ron, I'm sure you've got more that you could share with us, but you're at time.
Yes.
Are there any questions of the deputant? No? As always, Ron, thank you.
Thank you.
Louise Hittinger? Oh, Louise, you're online? I don't think that's the screen we're supposed to see. Oh, hi, Louise. Can you say a couple words so I know that your sound is good? No, I'm afraid we don't have. Are you muted? Louise, we've unmuted you at our end, but you somehow are muted at your end. Okay, Louise, what we're going to do is give you a few minutes to check your audio, and we're going to move on to the next deputant and come back to you. The next person I have listed is Callum Houston. Callum Houston. So Callum's not here. That completes the list. Let's see how we're doing with Louise. Louise, we still can't hear you. I don't think it's a matter of how close you are to the microphone. You seem to be muted altogether. I'm so sorry, Louise. I'm going to have to just let you go. We are finished our list of deputants, and we don't seem to be able to get an audio connection with you. Councillor Bradford seems to be trying to say something too, but I don't have audio for him either.
Okay, can we get Councillor Crisanti to say something?
Councillor Crisanti, can you say something? Uh-oh. Okay, folks, we seem to be having audio problems in the room. I'm just going to hold the meeting for 5 minutes and give IT staff a chance to investigate. Louise, hang in there. We're doing our best.
Yeah, it happened at the same time, so if we can just mute you.
Okay, so everyone, we're going to take a 5-minute break and all glare at the AD staff for a little while.
Louise, it's Nancy Martins from the clerk's office. Can you unmute your mic and do an audio test, please?
Hello?
Thank you so much. Just hold on. Councillor Bradford, would you like to do an audio test, please?
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. That works.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Oh, hang on. Councillor Crisanti, are you with us? And if you are, could you please turn your camera on? Oh, there's Councillor Nunziata. Okay. Oh, and Councillor Crisanti. Great. Okay. I understand the audio is working again. So we're going to try Louise one more time. Hi, Louise. Can you unmute yourself? And
Hi, can you hear me now?
hallelujah. We've done it. Okay, Louise, you got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. My name's Louise Huttinger, and I'm speaking on behalf of Clean Indoor Air Toronto. I'm also a resident of Scarborough Southwest and a regular user of the waterfront. So we've already spoken at length on this issue at the we submitted letters on this on this issue for the last meeting, and then also we spoke at the Board of Health on Monday, and it's related to this item because in reviewing the city planning report that was presented last month, there were some items which were of great concern to us. First one up was the report stated that buildings in the area, new builds, would require enhanced building envelope performance, reliance on mechanical ventilation, non-operable windows, and restrictions on balconies and outdoor space and notification requirements. Now, with non-operable windows, retirement residents would be entirely dependent on mechanical ventilation for fresh air supply. But the issue is that the current ventilation standard, which is ASHRAE standard 62.1, it was never designed to protect against fine particulate air pollution, ultra-fine particulate air pollution in particular, UFPs, and airborne pathogens. So unless additional steps are taken, including installing something like an indoor air quality monitoring system, upgrades and retrofits, then we're putting residents at risk, because oftentimes, like such as today, we tell people to shelter indoors, but the indoor conditions might not actually be safe because outdoor air pollution comes indoors and it could potentially concentrate there. And also with the dependence on mechanical ventilation, residents will be highly vulnerable during power outages. And that occurs disproportionately during extreme weather events and poor air quality days. That's when mechanical ventilation is needed the most. And non-operable windows and restrictions on balcony and outdoor space, that would greatly decrease livability. The next thing that we're really worried about is the changes that are proposed to the inner harbor. The report states that by closing off the western gap of the harbor, this would likely result in greater than 50% reduction in average inflow into the harbor and doubling the average inner harbor residence time. Now, there's several sewer lines that empty directly into the inner harbor, and that loss of water circulation would not only affect water quality and the health of the ecosystem, but it would actually impact air quality, especially during hot weather and heavy rains, which are intensifying and occurring more frequently due to climate change. So besides the odors of sewage and decay, we're also talking about pollution buildup in the inner harbor. It would make it unsafe for human contact. There would be increased risks of pathogen and zoonotic disease exposure, including from organic material originating from wildlife, sewer drainage, and water, and the river water. We have an avian and wildlife sanctuary at Tommy Thompson Park. A 2024 study of Toronto's emergency department data found that significant seasonal association between extreme precipitation and visits for acute gastrointestinal illness. So these incidents would likely increase in the number and also for the length of time, just because we're increasing that amount of residence time in the harbor. There's also an air quality concern. Research from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego has confirmed that sewage polluted water can transfer into the atmosphere through aerosols, which can carry bacteria and chemical compounds from the water into the air, where they can travel inland and expose people who never enter the water. These aerosols can contain bacteria, viruses, and chemicals. Blasts from jet engines will generate these aerosols. We've already got ferry and vessel traffic, which will generate aerosols. And this borders along one of the most densely populated shorelines in the country. So much emphasis has been placed by proponents on the economic benefits, but they don't account for the negative impacts on livability, well-being, quality of life, as well as the safety. Those impacts will diminish the appeal of the waterfront to visitors and tourism, and it may cause residents to leave the area, and it may lead to the hollowing out of the waterfront community. And all of this will outweigh even the most, wildly optimistic economic gains that are being put forth by proponents. We're urging the Planning and Housing Committee to do everything in its power to resist efforts to expand the airport and potentially develop the surrounding parklands, Turtle Islands and Little Norway Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No, seeing none. Thank you so much for your deputation, and our apologies that it took a little while to get organized. Okay, that completes the list of deputants. We'll turn now to questions of staff. Deputy Mayor Malik, Councillor Fletcher, do either of you have questions? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Malik, go first. Okay.
Thank you very much. I have questions on two fronts, and I'll just begin on some of the work around the business elements of this proposal. So I want to begin by just asking, one of the core tenets of the lobbyist registry is that the public deserves to know who controls and stands to benefit from the lobbying of public officials. That's correct?
Over here. Through you, Chair. Indeed, transparency is certainly one of the fundamental purposes of the lobbying registry. And the registry is intended to provide the public with information about who is lobbying public office holders, on whose behalf that lobbying is taking place, and where required by Chapter 140 of the Municipal Code, information about those who control or stand to benefit from that lobbying. Again, the precise disclosure requirements depend on the applicable provisions of the bylaw.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. So while your report found that a company called Newport owns the terminal at the Island Airport, could you determine who owns and controls Newport?
Yes, through the chair, Newport's ownership structure makes it difficult for staff to determine the exact owners and controlling interests. However, through a business registry search, we did determine that Newport is a general partnership owned by two entities, the Affinity Terminal Partners and NAIP GP Trust.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. And I understand that Newport has a CEO and a board of directors to manage the day-to-day operations of the company. So can you share what the role of the Infrastructure Investment Fund is, some of the entities that you just named, and does it appoint Newport's board of directors or issue shareholder direction? And if so or if not, how are those powers actually exercised?
Through the chair, what we can share and what we know today from publicly available information is that the Infrastructure Investment Fund is advised by JP Morgan Management, and its regulatory filings in the United States have linked JP Morgan Investment Management, a subsidiary of JP Morgan Chase, as an affiliate of the Infrastructure Investment Fund.
And just on that last question, does it appoint Newport's board of directors or issue shareholder directions?
Through the chair, we don't have that information here today.
Okay, and we have no sense of who does hold those powers.
In order to do a deeper dive into the corporate ownership structure of Newport Aviation and its relationship to JP Morgan, we would need to retain a specialist consultant for that work. And so in the interest of responding in time for the supplemental report, we relied on the publicly available information.
Okay, so you mentioned JP Morgan, and the report shares that JP Morgan Investment Management, Inc., a subsidiary of JP Morgan Chase & Co., is, and I'll quote the report, an affiliate of the Infrastructure Investment Fund. Can you explain what it means that JP Morgan Investment Management is affiliated to the Infrastructure Investment Fund? What is that relationship?
Through the chair, we don't have an answer to that question. It would require additional work and resources.
All right. So I guess what we do know about JP Morgan entities that they are headquartered in New York City, and you reported that the Infrastructure Investment Fund has a Cayman Islands address. Do you know why that would be?
That information through the chair is not publicly available.
All right, thank you. That's helpful just in terms of a little bit more answers that we need. I'm going to just switch tacks and ask a question about some of the environmental impacts that have been surfaced through this report. What are the known environmental impacts of reducing outflow of the inner harbor from an expanded runway, including the impacts on health and recreational use?
Through the chair. Reducing outflow from the inner harbor would increase the residence time for water in the harbor. Sure, yeah. So reducing outflow from the inner harbor would increase the residence time for water in the harbor, and this is known to correlate to degraded water quality, and that would be expected in the form of increased nutrients and E. coli and other contaminants. So this would relate to a higher risk of health effects and beach closures for users of the lake.
Okay, Councillor Fletcher, you had some questions?
Yep. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I just want to review, you did say that you couldn't bring anything to the supplemental because you'd have to bring somebody in to do that digging on all the corporate structure and ownership. Is that something that you can do on your own, or you would need direction from the City Council to do that? To hire that person?
I think we would, to the extent that legal can do it on our own, we would do it. But if we require the need to hire somebody to do it, I'd have to look into that further. We
Can
may
you
be
just-
able to do it through other like sole sourcing
Yes.
abilities, but I don't have the exact answer to that.
But
Councillor
you'd
Fletcher.
have that answer by council, so
Yes,
we'd know. Okay,
absolutely.
thank you very much. And just quickly, I'd just like, again, Waterfront Secretary to go over the structure, but not starting from the bottom, but start from the top. JP Morgan, infrastructure, all the way down to Newport Holdings. Are there threads that you see? What is that? All those owners and all those people in a chart like it was in your mind.
So through the chair, and I will acknowledge that this is more of a corporate search.
Correct.
So I'm going to actually ask legal to be able to chart that out for you more clearly from top to bottom as you've requested.
To my colleague, Allison.
Thank you.
The chain of the ownership is that Newport Aviation is owned by two partners, Affinity Terminal Partners LP and NAIP GP Trust. And then Affinity Terminal Partners LP is owned by ATP GP Trust. But we don't have any results on any ownership information with respect to that. What we do know for the chain is that the JP Morgan Asset Management advises the Infrastructure Investment Fund, which we understand is the, excuse me, just going to take 1 minute to consult my notes.
Can you hold my time, please, Chair? Thank you. While that's coming, I'll just let everybody know I'm going to ask about effluent.
We do understand that Newport is listed as the operating company within that investment fund portfolio.
Okay. I always like charts. I don't know if that's possible to do more of a chart for the future. And the Newport, so the parties, just to remind everybody, the parties now for the tripartite agreement is the provincial government, the Ports Toronto or Port Authority, and the federal government, correct?
Through the chair, that is not yet correct.
Not
Bill 110 did enable the province to introduce regulations on replacing the City of Toronto in the tripartite. However, as of today, the City of Toronto is still in the tripartite with the Toronto Port Authority.
Okay, thank you very much. And then just for any effluent into the inner harbor, because the federal government really does have a tremendous amount of control over water. Do we agree on that? What you can put in it, what you can roll in it, what you can do to it, that is very much federal jurisdiction, fisheries and oceans.
Through the chair, the Provincial Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks actually governs much of the discharge allowance into the inner harbor through their environmental compliance approvals for municipal and industrial discharge.
However, if you are to bother the shoreline, make any changes to your shoreline with or without a permit from the provincial government, Fisheries and Oceans has a role to determine when or when you can't do that, do they not?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
And what is that role?
Through the chair, the role of Department of Fisheries and Oceans is to preserve fish habitat. So any construction works that would have a disturbance to fish habitat is under their purview.
And what have they said about the plan? Because this would definitely be disturbing the fish habitat, which have now come back into the inner harbor. I'm not sure I understand that fully.
Through the chair, the federal government has not provided any comments on a plan that may or may not exist.
No, it's the department,
The
not the
Department of
fed.
Fisheries and Oceans.
So
does not-
they have not said anything at this point,
That is correct.
and they're fully apprised of the plan.
Through the chair, we do not know if any orders of government other than the city have seen the plan. The City of Toronto has not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll take it into committee now. Councillor Matlow has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the report talks about the harbor's water quality will be significantly reduced or polluted, reducing water flow by 50% and keeping pollutants in the water twice as long. That was just based off a 2017 environmental assessment and a 200-meter runway extension. So what would happen now to the water flow, or how much worse would it get if there was a 600-meter runway extension?
Through the chair, I'll ask Toronto Water to respond to most of that. What I will say is that extension, for the record, is an assessment that we've conducted based on media reports of what the extended runway length may be. So just to be very clear, we're basing it on an assumption that we have through media reports only.
So like we know that the province and the TPA are looking at over 600-meter extension, and they're looking to expand it west into the harbor, I understand. So is the Portlands project and the Dunn renaturalization in danger of being jeopardized in any way if that massive extension happens the way that we understand it would be?
Through the chair, earlier this spring, the City of Toronto settled with the Toronto Port Authority on issues related to heights in Ookwemin, Minising, and they are supportive of the heights that are included in the development concept that was before Council earlier this year.
And what about the Dunn renaturalization?
Through the chair, we haven't heard any comment on the Dunn renaturalization, and we don't have any reason to believe that at this point the Dunn renaturalization would be affected by an airport plan. Of course, we do need to see more information to assess that with greater accuracy.
So, like, I understand, like, we don't have a plan in front of us. The public, even though they're being consulted right now, are consulted about, feelings and views and opinions, but don't actually have a plan to inform those views. But, what are our non-negotiables? What if it goes up to 1,000 meters? What is the line in the sand for the city where we're just saying, we cannot support a proposal to introduce jets to the island because the impacts on our natural environment, traffic on lakeshore, and on and on, and housing targets, et cetera. Like, at what point do we say, we just can't? We can't support this entirely.
Through the chair, if I may assist, we're functioning off of the information that we have available. Unfortunately, I don't think we can provide an opinion based on, say, a 1,000-meter extension. It's just not something that we've considered, and essentially we need to understand what the proposal was from the airport in order to provide an appropriate consideration.
But we know our plan, right? Our plan is a balanced approach where we have vibrant and healthy neighborhoods. We have a functional waterfront. We have schools, recreational opportunities, tourism, economic development, and a small regional airport on the island, which has been working. And so that's been our plan, and we're continuing to support that plan, along with a new neighborhood in Ookwemin, Minising, and we have housing targets there that we believe has been supported by both the federal and the provincial government thus far. So at what point, even if we're not reacting to their plan, can we not say to them, this is our line in the sand because we want to implement our vision and our plan as a city, working with Waterfront Toronto?
Through the chair, and with the support of staff, for example, with the island, we continue to reinforce meeting the objectives of all three levels of government when we are making these decisions. So, for example, the density on the island was adjusted based on the information that we had available, and essentially we are working towards council's approved plans that have been put forward to us.
Okay, I would like to hear more and more about sort of our non-negotiables, because I think rather than just react, I hope that we will be able to set boundaries. Last question. Before this report, and as you proceed, has any member of staff, rather than look around for publicly available documents and dig through the internet and all of that kind of stuff, has anybody here just called Newport or their representatives and just asked them about JP Morgan and the suggestions about who funds them and supports them?
Through the chair, as I mentioned before, we undertook research based on publicly available information. If we were to call Newport directly and ask them information, we would still need to retain the services of a professional consultant to verify the information shared. So that is why we relied on public information for the purposes of the supplemental report.
If I may, just because I don't want to ask another question, but just to supplement this one, may I ask staff to just consider that while you do all this work and all this effort to review all sorts of public documents, would you consider maybe just calling them directly and seeing if we can get an answer?
Through the chair, we could certainly reach out and ask if they would like to provide anything in writing in response to the staff report.
I think that would be a place to start. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions of staff? I've got a couple. So there have been a couple of questions from the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Matlow about the ownership. Let's just put a fine point on it. As of today, we do not know what person or persons or corporate entity ultimately controls and benefits from any proposal to expand that facility. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we can't really see through the corporate veil to know who the man behind the curtain is. Sorry to put words in your mouth, but is that fair?
At this time, we cannot determine.
Okay. We've asked you to do a lot of different work on the transportation, on the health impacts, on the water impacts, on these corporate questions. What's been the hardest part of answering those questions?
Chair, the nature of an airport expansion plan is complex and warrants appropriate due diligence. And so in order to address the issues that we've raised in our report and in response to the questions from members of council, we would need to have a formal plan submitted for review.
Okay, and to make that real clear for everybody watching and listening, the Toronto Port Authority, neither the Toronto Port Authority nor the province of Ontario have provided you or the public with full plans.
That is correct.
Okay. The province and the Port Authority have talked about this 10 million passengers with a potential runway configuration and expropriation of Little Norway Park and waterfront land. Does this suggest to you that they might actually have a plan, but they just haven't shared it with us?
Through the chair, I'll acknowledge that it is highly possible that a plan might exist. However, as I mentioned, city planning and city staff have not seen a plan of any sort.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions of staff? No? Deputy Mayor Malek, Councillor Fletcher, would either of you like to speak to the item? Okay, Deputy Mayor Malek.
Thank you very much. And just building on what the chair has said, we have asked staff to, look very closely and prepare information for this committee on a range of issues and impacts when it comes to the potential, the airport expansion and the plans that we have yet to see. And I want to thank members of the public in our communities who have not just spoken here at our committee, that we've been hearing from right across the city and as councillors from one end to the other. And there have been literally thousands of communications that we have received about the outrage, the questions, and the very serious impacts and concerns of what is in front of us. I'm glad this report helps to share more information and takes us further, and also identifies where there is much more work and information that is required. I've consistently said that decisions about the future of the island airport must be part of a transparent and democratic and evidence-based process, and that's what we see here. This report helps to ensure that we as a city are surfacing the information that's needed to make these choices and to understand what is in front of us. It uncovers some of the most serious environmental impacts that will be felt on our harbor water quality, threatening the health and the use of this critical resource in our city. And it shows that there are very serious questions about who is benefiting from the talked about expansion plans at the island airport. Those beneficiaries who remain consistently hidden from view, and where Torontonians and the public deserve to have those answers and to be seen very clearly in terms of whose interest this is all happening in. We know that we are faced with some of these troubling questions because of the unacceptable choices by the Premier to remove the say of Torontonians from this process and to take this unilateral approach when it comes to the island airport and its future. And we collectively as a council have called on the federal government to use their power to stand with Torontonians against provincial overreach. And the city has repeatedly raised a number of the concerns and the impacts on housing, on the environment, on the harbor, its uses, on the public realm, traffic and congestion, and on the health and well-being of all of us in the city, including on our waterfront. And we've also affirmed that any island airport plans must be subject to a comprehensive assessment of health impacts, and that has consideration of ultrafine particles. The 2017 environmental assessment that was referenced laid out some of the serious concerns about previous plans, and further expansion right now we know will generate more just based on the work that we have in front of us. And this process has got us here. We know it's not good planning, and we know that the provincial government has moved to take city property, again, with no details on what they intend to do, and no transparency or clarity from the Toronto Port Authority either. Toronto City Council has been clear in opposing this land grab and affirming that Torontonians deserve to have a say in decisions about the future of our city and our waterfront. And again, thousands of you have spoken clearly that this chaotic pattern of behavior from the province is unacceptable, and that we are calling on our representatives from every level, particularly federally, to step up to their responsibilities. The province and the Toronto Port Authority need to publicly reveal their plans, their business case, and the studies related to the expansion of the island airport. And I know that there is direction coming forward that we're looking to support that continues to move us in that direction. I've also shared with the chair a motion that asks for information in this report to be shared with the medical officer of health to inform the comprehensive health assessment that must be part of our decision-making and our due diligence when it comes to the island airport expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everybody who's been working so hard on this really difficult issue. And for your remarks, Gord, about the veil of secrecy, because there is this veil hanging around this project from the provincial government. And we keep pulling back corners to find out more. I'm very happy to hear from Ms. Matsumoto that we'll have a clear pathway at council, be able to describe that, to keep unpacking who is who's doing what, who's making the decisions, where are they making those decisions, so that Torontonians can decide if those decisions are being made in the best interest of the city, of the province, and indeed of the country. As we all know, we are in a pretty major elbows up moment with the United States and their imposition of many things into Canada, and somehow in the middle of this, the airport itself appears to be an entity that is being directed entirely from a foreign country. And it is very disturbing for people to find that out, and I know we all want to know more. There are some things that we do know, though. This city and activists in this city, and particularly the old city of Toronto, including the new city, have spent years cleaning up our waterfront, years cleaning up the Don River to the fact where there are now fish in the Don River, have spent decades cleaning up the inner harbor because it has outfalls, it has been filthy, it is being cleaned. There are now, those of us who are on the TRCA, and a few of us on this committee understand that there are plentiful fish all throughout Toronto's waterfront. That is something that is brand new. So for all of those who have spent that amount of time making sure that our water has been cleaned up and that our waterfront is a place that we can be very proud of, this is rolling back. This report shows that's rolling back the time that we have spent, and we should not let that happen. The Meadowcrest Park, everybody who goes to Meadowcrest raves about that as a brand new, beautiful park on the waterfront in Toronto. There are so many upgrades to our waterfront. I don't want to just talk about housing. I want to talk about recreation, visiting, tourism, beauty, enjoying our city, that this is now a new standard that has been set for a waterfront park, and it is beautiful. We will be opening phase 2 sometime next week. So in the midst of this creating incredible new spaces, we are watching the provincial government create an incredibly big problem on Toronto's waterfront. I think that there has been an approach, Mr. Chair, a tripartite approach to Toronto's waterfront since Waterfront Toronto was established back 26 years ago, where the city, the provincial government, and the federal government made a promise to Torontonians, made a promise that there would be well-managed change on our waterfront with plans, and the public has been engaged for that many years in watching the rollout of the waterfront and the public realm and the cleaning and the new river that you talk about, Councillor Madlow, been involved with that since 2008, to see that all come into reality as a tripartite approach with members of the board from all 3 levels of government, and then have one partner go off, that would be the provincial government, and start making decisions about the waterfront, not in the context of that tripartite nature, and then to have the federal government somehow not be able to clearly say, this is not in the best interests of the waterfront we have promised Torontonians. All 3 levels of government promised Torontonians, promised the city a new waterfront and a new way of doing things. And one partner is now gone off in a very different, destructive direction. One partner remains silent on their promise, and one partner, that being the city, is remained fighting for the waterfront and the promise of our waterfront for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matlow.
I believe when it comes to protecting our waterfront and how much we value it, our council and our city is largely united. Over 2 decades, we've been working on a plan, not just a vision, but a plan that's actually being implemented day after day, including, as Councillor Fletcher just mentioned, very soon we're going to see another 10-acre expansion to Meadowcrest. That's going to be the jewel of the Ookwemin Minising neighborhood, which also is part of our plan. It's also about expansion of park space throughout the waterfront, from Scarborough to Etobicoke. It's about vibrant and healthy neighborhoods. It's about ensuring that we don't see more ultrafine particles making not only our neighborhoods unlivable, but changing the entire architecture of the buildings so that people won't even be able to spend time outdoors. That's not reasonable. It's about attracting tourism. It's about supporting local businesses, economic development to our city. And yes, there is a small regional airport at Toronto Island that most people actually appreciate because it is still accessible and easier to deal with often than Pearson. People don't want another Pearson by the lake, including people who value air travel and business travel in particular from Toronto Island. It's working. And not only is it working, but there's more to do. There's more beautification to do. There's more improvements that we want to work on. So in the midst of all of this, we get this bombastic unilateral announcement by the Premier, making up some number about 10 million passengers, getting to 10 million passengers, that I haven't heard a single reasonable grown-up, opponent or proponent of jets, suggest that that's even realistic. The Toronto Port Authority hastily and immediately endorsed this plan, even though they're only bringing $17 million a year, yet they're suggesting that this is going to be paid for by user fees and passenger fees to pay for this about $5 billion project. That's absurd. The math doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. So where's that money going to come from? Is it going to be tax dollars? For those who love the airport, is it going to come out of your pocket? Is air travel from Billy Bishop about to become far more expensive for you? What about the future of Lakeshore and Bathurst? Already difficult to get through. What about the traffic congestion, the lack of transportation, and the $5 billion number even going higher because we're going to have to deal with all that infrastructure upgrades that are going to be needed? And what about Bedazagay? What about the Dunn regeneration? What about the massive concrete runway expansion that could jeopardize the environmental improvements that we want to see made rather than see it get worse? What about the giant blast wall? What about the fact that the Premier is moving forward without publicly making a plan available with enabling legislation that could remove Toronto's lands, including our parks, Little Norway on our waterfront, the Toronto Islands themselves, and removing Toronto from a tripartite agreement before ever actually sharing any details of why this is all happening in the first place? I believe the plan that we need to focus on is our Toronto plan. And I believe that we need to make it very clear what our non-negotiables are. We shouldn't simply react. We should be saying very clearly, we've got a plan for housing, a plan for neighborhoods, a plan for parks, a plan for a waterfront that is vibrant and clean and inviting to all people in Toronto and Ontario and beyond. That is our vision, with recreation and so many more opportunities to come. That's our clear vision, and we're not going to allow anyone to just rip that up because of somebody's interests other than the public's. So, moving forward, I'm very optimistic we're going to win this. I believe that our waterfront will be protected. And you know why? Because more and more Torontonians and beyond, if you look at the polls, if they're simply asked, do you like the idea of flying from Toronto Island to Paris or something? That sounds cool. Maybe they'll say yes to that. But if they're asked about the reality of it, if they're asked about what the consequences and the costs are of seeing our waterfront destroyed, they say no. They say, we're not just saying no to that, we're saying yes to a vibrant waterfront that is the balance of livability, of economic development, of recreation, of a place that we want to go to, rather than what Doug Ford would be, which is a place that you can't even get to. So I'm very confident that by providing this information to the public, we're informing them to make the right choice, and we're representing that choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak to the item? No? Okay, I will. I've got a motion. If we can have that up. So this has three parts. It requests the Government of Ontario and the Port Authority to make information available on the beneficial owners and controlling interests of the terminal. It requests the Government of Ontario and the Port Authority to disclose any plans, business cases, or studies related to the expansion of the airport. And it asks Council to forward the item and any plans, business cases, or studies related to the item to the Medical Officer of Health for a comprehensive assessment of the potential health impacts of any proposal to expand the operation at the airport, including cardiovascular, respiratory, cognitive, and other impacts, including any potential impacts of ultrafine particles. Okay. I'm feeling a little loose today, so I'm going to break out the Cicero. One of the most important and foundational principles in our legal system is the question, cui bono? Who benefits? Breaking out the Latin, that's right. Who benefits? We need to, where does Italian come from? We need to know who's behind this. And there's a very important reason we need to know who's behind this. For those of us who've been dealing with this provincial government for a while, we'll remember the question of cui bono led to some very interesting conclusions about the proposed Greenbelt expansion and the relationship between donors and funders and the provincial government. I don't know who's benefiting from this. I don't know what those relationships are. I don't know who benefits. I don't know who's been talking to the Premier. I don't know which lobbyist is working for who. And we have a fundamental duty as a government to make that information transparent and public so that we can make sure that there's nothing untoward going on here. I'm not saying that there is, but I'm saying that it is our duty to know that and to share that information with the public. You heard from our lobbyist register that that issue of transparency and beneficial ownership is crucial to the purpose of our lobbyist registrar. If we don't have that, I just set up Friendly Smiley Co. and do all my lobbying through them, and no one knows it's me. Well, you know it was me because I'm, kind of a loudmouth, but people who operate in the shadows to benefit need to be exposed. We need the disinfectant of sunlight to know what this is really about. Now, my colleagues have spoken about the impacts that this would have. I believe personally that the impacts are automatically disqualifying, but the province and the Port Authority have managed to keep it all just fuzzy and blurry enough that we can't quite prove it. And again, in the public interest, if you want to make a massive change to Toronto's waterfront, it's your obligation to give us the details so we can understand it. Stop hiding behind this idea that, we haven't quite done the work yet. Somebody somewhere has done some work. And finally, on that point, I've said it before, but I think it bears repeating. The city of Toronto is one of the luckiest cities of the world. We sit on one of the largest bodies of fresh water on the planet. And we have been, frankly, negligent in taking advantage of that unique and powerful opportunity. We could be doing so much more with Toronto's waterfront. One of the things that has always kept us from fulfilling that promise and that potential is the uncertainty around the Billy Bishop Airport. And I certainly hope that this particular iteration, and there have been 90 years of iterations of this, clears it up for once and for all that the broader public interest is taking advantage of that unique waterfront that we have at the City of Toronto so that everyone in Toronto and all the people visiting Toronto can enjoy it. Okay.
Can I just have a second with you?
Sorry, 3 people spoke to me at once. Nancy's the most important, so I'll start there. So we just slightly altered the wording of the motion, and I'll have the clerk display it, and then I'll come over to you, Councillor Matlow. They just moved some words around. The meaning is still the same. Yeah, that phrase was in the second recommendation, but it makes more sense to have that phrase in the first recommendation.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Does it really, just in both fairness, but also just pragmatically, I asked questions earlier about whether or not staff have just called Newport.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why would, along with publicly available information, why would we not also just ask staff to just pick up the phone or write to them and seek that information directly? Because I don't, it seems wrong to kind of allude to suggestions around that relationship without ever having to directly ask them the question.
Yeah. Sure. So as I heard from the chief planner and Ms. Onena when they answered your questions, in order to make sure whatever information we get is accurate, they would want to find documentation, and that requires some investment on the part of the staff.
Yeah, yeah.
The chief planner did say that it was his intention to ask them to provide something in writing, so we have documentation. So I took him at his word that.
Okay, your motion doesn't.
Yeah, but I
have regard to that. But that's an undertaking.
I look at him. Look at that nodding head.
Okay, as long as there's that undertaking. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So let's have a recorded vote on that. Councillor Bradford, I see you're connected to the meeting. There you are. Okay. So all those in favor of the amendment? Councillor Myers, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Perks, Councillor Nunziata, Councillor Crescenti, and Councillor Bradford. Okay, and I believe that strikes the receipt, so that's all we need to vote on. Okay, thank you. Now, to go to my other piece of paper, and I believe that takes us to item PH 32.8. The site plan application fee review. I have two deputants listed on that item. Emil Solanki. Emil, I understand you're online. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Emil, you've got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, I will just start this. Okay, very good. Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Emil Solanki. I am a resident of the Kingsway neighbourhood in South Etobicoke, and this is my first appearance before Toronto's Planning and Housing Committee, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate today. First, I'm kindly asking, please, for a new and improved residential site plan application and site plan amendment fee framework. I respectfully ask that the proposed residential fees not be implemented until staff reports back with a separate residential framework for council's consideration. Second, residential homeowners should not be viewed in the same way as commercial developers. Many residential applications involve existing homes like mine, not major new developments. Homeowners are trying to substantially renovate, rebuild where appropriate, create a legal basement apartment, improve accessibility, or simply legalize and regularize planning issues they inherited. The planning system should encourage those investments, not make them financially and procedurally discouraging. Developers can spread such fees across units, but we homeowners are using our own savings, remortgaging, or both to cover such excessive costs. Now, the zoning bylaw site amendment fee ranges from $63,000 to $780,000, compared to, let's say, Community Council and Committee of Adjustment that can range from $1,000 to $5,000. And that brings me on to my third point. My concern here is not cost recovery, and I'm not discouraging cost recovery, but my concern is with duplicate and excessive cost recovery, specifically for residential homeowners. Now, homeowners often go through zoning reviews, Committee of Adjustment, Community Council, Building, Forestry, Transportation, and additional planning approvals for what is essentially one residential matter. If an applicant has already paid for technical review and completed previous city planning approvals involving substantially the same planning matters multiple times, I believe the city should recognize that previous work when determining subsequent fees. And I also believe that zoning review stage should actually be the city's point of triage. Straightforward matters should go directly to Committee of Adjustment. However, where broader issues involving municipal code requirements, city property, legacy non-conforming conditions, or multiple overlapping planning matters are identified, applicants should instead be directed toward a comprehensive site-specific zoning bylaw amendment capable of addressing the existing inherited conditions as a whole. That would reduce duplication, improve customer service, and better align with the report's objective of a more proportionate allocation of city resources. There should be a provision where you can submit what you purchased and essentially say, please legalize this for a modest sum. Finally, I am not asking the council to reject the staff report, but I am asking for you to please amend it by directing staff to report back with a separate, reasonable, merciful residential fee framework that distinguishes owner-occupied homes from commercial and purpose-built rental developments, recognizes existing homes, legacy planning issues, and legal non-conforming properties, uses zoning review as the point of triage for efficiency, benchmark Toronto's fees against comparable Ontario municipalities, and provides fee reduction credits and exemptions where applicants have already completed previous city planning approvals involving substantially the same planning matter. So this fee review should not focus only on new development, and it should also encourage homeowners to reinvest in Toronto's existing neighbourhoods through substantial renovations, replacement homes where necessary, secondary basement apartments, and regularize long-standing legacy planning issues. Personally, I'm up $20,000, no progress made. 4 years already, pleaded with Councillor Morley for help, and her staff have refused to help me multiple times. I yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, thank you for your deputation. Next, I have Claire Malcolmson. Hi, Claire. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much. Well, I will just start by saying after the last item, I think it's refreshing to be able to talk about something happening in the city that I think is going well. My name is Claire Malcolmson, and I'm the manager of the Mid-Rise Advocacy Group, and we work with environmental defense, planners, architects, city builders, people who are really interested in helping us resolve Toronto's housing issues in a sustainable way, in a long-term affordable way. And so that brings us to really being proponents of mid-rise building. We really appreciate the efforts that staff and council have supported to advance zoning and a number of implementation issues. So I'm here today to support the staff report and the as of right stream for mid-rise that conforms to the zoning. Just very briefly, what we understand from the report is that if you do meet the zoning and you've dealt with your minor variances, committee of adjustment approvals, et cetera, that you have a shorter, more focused approval process, 0 per square foot fees, GFA, and a maximum of $32,704 fee total. So I think that this is really helpful for this sector. Just want to point out that, you know, building mid-rise on major streets and avenues is something that world-class cities do. We're trying to get there. It allows us the opportunity to proactively improve the infrastructure in a place for focused development. We're trying to build housing that is affordable for both for Torontonians, for people who would like to live in Toronto but can't afford it, particularly people in that family formation, early career period of their lives are fleeing the city. This is terrible for our economy, and we really need to build the housing that people can actually afford in order to help address that, that threat to our economy and our way of life. So I just want to make a couple comments. So this effort in combination with the proposed development charge cut of 60% for apartments and condominiums with 2 or more bedrooms, combined, these incentives start to look good for mid-rise. However, as we all know, we're in an extremely challenging construction time. There are really poor economic conditions. And so I just want to frame this as setting us up for, creating the right conditions for appropriate scale development to occur in existing communities where people want to live. If you want to downsize, if you want to stay close to your parents, for example, right now, this is hard to do in the city of Toronto on an average income, if not impossible. So we have a couple of requests. In addition to the site plan proposal here, which would roll out in 2027. We note that at the same time, planning is expected to come back with reports on flexibility around amenity space and bike parking and type G loading. What we really want to see is all of these things happening. One measure alone is not going to be enough to substantially increase the viability of this sector, and I don't think Torontonians want towers everywhere. So let's approve all of this and build the city that we want. The second thing is we're hearing from people that are construction managers and so on that there are a lot of people who are relatively new builders in the city of Toronto. They don't really know how to build mid-rise. It's actually really important that they're given a how-to guide. They're making very simple mistakes that if we want to support the building of mid-rise, it's really important that we get a bit of a how-to guide, what to avoid, pitfalls. Happy to talk to staff about that as well. And then finally, this DC conversation, the cost of construction, it's really raising pretty substantial questions about what are the permanent fixes that we're looking for here. Like, we're not going to be able to just get DC cuts and HST cuts all the time. That is not sustainable, and we are all paying for that. So I think we really need to consider broader shifts in banking, timing, and tranches. We need to consider changing, municipal land transfer tax to a real estate capital gains tax, for example. Thank you very much for all the work that you've done so far. I'd be happy to take any questions. Let's do it all. The end.
Thanks, Claire. Councillor Myers has a question for you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just curious, what would be the benefits of switching to a real estate capital gains tax from the current land transfer tax?
Okay. We could have a great seminar on revenue tools.
Okay.
I think maybe the three of us could have a wonderful lunch. But we are on an item having to do with site plan application fees. Yeah.
So what would be some of the mistakes that you're commonly seeing are being made, and what do you think could be done to address them for the mid-rise developments?
So what I'm hearing from my group members that are involved in construction is people starting off by choosing the wrong number of floors. Like, this is not viable. Or you've just triggered a change in the building code that you're not really aware of. Or you are not aware that a mid-block site is actually much more constrained and is going to require different things to be possible at the back of the building in order for them to have enough space in the building to have the number of units, the size they want and need in order for the building to be viable. So the profit margins on this scale of building are small, and so all of the details need to line up. And those are a couple of examples, things I've heard.
And your proposal would be to have some sort of handbook available to builders to sort of deal specifically with issues that might encounter in the mid-rise development market?
Yes, so the mid-rise guidelines are helpful, but it's not really a how-to build. And there's a similar document for a multiplex, for example. And so something like that would be really helpful.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I am going to hold you guys to that little seminar. Okay. Are there any other questions for Claire? Okay. Seeing none, Claire, thanks so much. Those are all the deputants I have listed on the item. Are there any questions of staff? No, seeing none. Does anyone want to speak? No? Okay, I'll just move the item. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. That takes us to PH 3214, which is 39 Wynford Drive, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. I have two deputants listed. Alexander Suriano. Hi, Alexander, come on up.
Mr. Chair, I'm joined today by Mr. Michael McClelland of ERA Architects.
Yes, I have him on my list too.
He will, if with the chair's permission, he'll be sitting up here with me while I do my deputation.
Sure.
And then he'll follow suit.
I'm feeling loose today. Let's just do it that way.
It's the last one of the term. Thank you, sir.
I benefit from this. Okay, let's go.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and staff. My name is Alexander Suriano. I'm legal counsel to the landowner, 39 Wynford Inc., with respect to this item. I'm joined, as I said, by Mr. Michael McClelland, who is my client's heritage planning consultant. We wish to make a deputation today on this item with respect to the recommendation by staff that the property be designated as a heritage building. Our concern is with respect to the timing of this designation, particularly in light of ongoing city-initiated planning approvals processes, which I'll explain, as well as site-specific official plan amendment processes, which are ongoing at this time. Mr. McClelland and his colleagues at ERA Architects have also identified fundamental concerns with respect to the statement of significance and the description of the heritage attributes of this property. Just by way of background, this property is located at the northeast corner of Wynford Drive and Gervais Drive within the approved Aga Khan Park and Museum major transit station area. It's also within close proximity to another major transit station area, Don Mills Station LRT. I'll note that the property has long been intended for high-rise and transit-supportive development, and this is reflected in a recent development application made by both my client, 39 Wynford Inc., as well as adjacent landowners at 15 Gervais Drive and 1200 Eglinton Avenue East, who are collectively developing the three properties known as the Wynford Gervais site. The development vision for this site, as I mentioned, is for a transit-supportive high-rise development neighborhood, and that's reflected in the development applications, which are now before staff and are being reviewed. In addition, there are two city-initiated processes that are currently live with respect to this property, with respect to both this property and the adjacent sites. Those are the Wynford Concord Focused Area Study, also known as OPA 902, and the Don Mills Regeneration Area Study, also known as OPA 911. Both of these studies have now been adopted by council. My client has identified significant concerns with both those instruments, in particular in the relation with the site-specific application that has also been made. OPA 902 is under appeal by my client and the neighboring property owners, the Ontario Land Tribunal. And OPA 911 we anticipate will be appealed shortly as well. As a result, all three of 902, 911, and the site-specific official plan amendment matters remain live and subject to ongoing review. With respect to the designation of the property, as a result of these ongoing planning matters and considerations, which, as I mentioned, are live, it's premature to consider this designation at this time. A previous request to designate this property in November of last year was deferred at the request of my client and with the recommendation of staff by council. At that time, we noted that sufficient time and additional time was needed to discuss the designation with my client and with staff. And in the interest of good planning and ensuring consistency across both the provincial and city objectives, consideration of any proposed designation of the property must properly include consideration of the planning context, which is still being set at this time. I'll also note that OPA 911 in particular, as well as our site-specific application, have policies that specifically address the question of heritage and which would apply to my client's building. and as a result, these will be significantly impacted by any heritage designation as well as the description of the heritage attributes. For example, OPA 911 includes policies that deal with setbacks, transition to heritage buildings, the preservation of certain views and landscaping. All of these would be impacted as a result of the designation, and as a result should be coordinated with the planning review of both the city-initiated instruments as well as the site-specific application. As a result, Brookfield and our planning consultants are asking that this matter be deferred and consideration of the designation be deferred at this time. The property is listed on the Heritage Registrar. I'll also note that Brookfield has a long history of consistently working with heritage staff in good faith efforts. We have actually previously, when this matter was raised in November of last year, we canceled a demolition permit which had been issued by the city in order to allow for those discussions to continue. So we respectfully request that the committee recommend the proposed designation be deferred and further consultation with heritage staff and the landowner occur within the context of the ongoing 9/11 matters and the site-specific OPA. I'll now turn to Mr. McClellan.
You used your 5 minutes, so let's follow the normal process. Over to Michael.
Okay, I'll do 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Thank you very much for hearing us today. I'll be very brief. I think we've been meeting with the heritage staff and with the planning staff about a development application. We've suggested some changes to the designation description, and those have been received. We think of them as corrections. There still is a difference of opinion about some of the attributes, and I'll give the example of for example, this is a simple example of the height of the building. The building was designed by Peter Dickinson, fairly well-known architect, especially in Don Mills area, as a two-story building in 1961. He then passed away, and about 5 years later, one of the firms that say the successor to Peter Dickinson added 2 more stories on top. We actually think that the quality of the building was significantly better as a two-story building. And we think that that had to do with Dickinson's elegant horizontal design and a specific context of Don Mills, which are low-slung horizontal buildings. That's how it was originally conceived, and we think that's the true attribute that should be considered. There are, of course, with heritage matters, there's often differences of opinion, but we'd like to state our difference of opinion because it's clearly stated in this designation report that it's a 4-story building that's the value, and we think the values are different than that. So it's a really simple statement, but we want to register our concern that we don't think the designation description is accurate. And I'll leave it at that, sir.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Seeing none? Thank you very much for your deputations. I have a question for staff. So we've heard from the deputants that they'd like to defer. What are the consequences of deferring in the current legal environment?
Thank you for the question through the chair. Despite the accelerated timelines that recent new legislation has created, one of the things that's really positive about provincial legislation is that it encourages us to make early decisions about heritage value. So they put in place a timing requirement that specifies the number of days from which an application is deemed complete that it must be designated. We are entering into that time now, and so I would not be supportive of a deferral at this time because we will be barred from ever designating it in the future. That's how the legislation works. If you miss the timeline, that's it.
And the council break, I guess, exacerbates that.
For sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other questions of staff? Oh, Councillor Myers? Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, I'm just looking at the building. Just through the pictures, I've seen the building, but it looks unremarkable. What is worthy of heritage status of this building?
Through the chair, the designation report goes through all the values and attributes, but I'll ask Patrick Brown, who's the report's author, to summarize some of those points for you. It isn't always just about looks.
Through the chair,
So in evaluating the cultural heritage value of the property, we use the provincially prescribed criteria. Oh, you're just not quite loud enough. Okay. We use the provincially prescribed criteria for establishing cultural heritage value. There are 9 criteria. They relate to design physical value, associative value, and historical value, and contextual value. Regarding the design value, we feel it's a representative example of an international style office building. The international style is defined by clear lines, horizontality, and moving on to the historical associative, it's associated with Peter Dickinson Associates, as well as WZMH Architects. And then contextually, it was part of a larger modernist office development in Flemington Park. So when we're looking at value, value is not necessarily always tied to aesthetics. It can also be associations, context, and in doing that, we then conduct our 906 evaluation. Based on that, we create a statement of cultural heritage value, and through that, we identify the appropriate attributes.
So is the value in the building not necessarily the building itself, but rather who designed and built it?
Through the chair, within our heritage attributes, we have defined the structure as having value.
And what is that exactly? What's the value of the structure itself?
The structure is a representative example of an international style office building.
And what style is that?
The international style, it is the name given to the style.
It's called? It's the international style?
Yes,
Okay.
it's called the international style.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions of staff? No? I'm going to move staff recommendations. To the deputants, I'm sorry that we, can't accommodate your request to defer it. If you want, I can, after the meeting, share the Premier's office phone number with you, and maybe you can take it up with him. We find ourselves handcuffed this way all the time on planning matters, heritage matters, well, all kinds of things that we used to have some authority and flexibility on here at Toronto City Council, but under this current provincial government, we really are just handcuffed. Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that carries. Yeah, so members, we've only got the one item left. So I've consulted with you, and I'm just going to move to extend to complete the agenda. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that carries. Okay, so we'll just have a working lunch. All right, that takes us to our final item, protecting tenants from fraudulent evictions. We have 4 deputants. First is Arnold Margulis. Arnold, I understand you're online. Arnold, there you are. Hi. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to, to present some suggestions. I understand this is about the Council's law motion to enhance the abilities of MLS inspectors, to deal with unscrupulous and criminal landlords. I fully support Council's law in general. All his activities in protecting tenants for years. And in particular, this motion is long overdue, especially given the fact that recently City Council increased the staffing model for the MLS and Rents of Toronto, so they are quite able to run through the proper training and to document obvious and reported by tenants violations of the Residential Tenancies Act, the Criminal Code, and also violations found by the inspectors themselves. And it also should include some improvements to the current edition of the property standards that I suggested in earlier City Council sessions. And also there should be other improvements. Based on personal experience, because while reporting violations of maintenance to the MLS and accomplishing kind of orders from MLS to improve for the landlord, or the landlord staff in the building basically drilled a number of holes around the perimeter of the upper unit above mine and started, engage the tenant in the fumigating toxic chemicals into my unit and also contaminating water in my unit. And my ongoing complaints were not addressed by the landlord staff. On the contrary, the operations leadership just, prevented any meaningful investigation of my complaints. And also, the local staff was instructed to basically to misinform the community safety unit and the police and local law enforcement agencies. So my requests for independent investigation, there were promises, but they were never actually materialized, and the contamination continues. Now, I suggest some amendments to the council's smart law motion, which is great by itself, as I said. In particular, of course, MLS staff should be trained in the foundations of the criminal code and most typical violations of the criminal code by the landlords. You need to consider applying similar authority to Toronto Public Health because they are grossly underperforming right now. They don't have proper equipment to register contamination in the units. They are not stimulated to do it anyway. And sometimes they just file false reports, attending the unit during the daytime when contamination happens at night, and filing the false reports. Now, the leadership of Toronto Public Health also recently posted, and on the request of Board of Health, the vision, and this vision of their activity in environmental enforcement includes basically just advisory to tenants and students at the local schools, and nothing else. So obviously it should be reopened, this item at the incoming city council, and amended so the public health model should be enhanced with similar authorities and also better enforcement of the violations of environmental standards in the in tenant units. Also, I would suggest that public health would report to the same deputy city manager as the MLS, so that they would be the activities coordinated more efficiently. Right now, they report to different deputy city managers, and it shows every way. So I also suggest to create an advisory committee with the Toronto City Manager that would incorporate participation of all law enforcement agencies that would coordinate continuously their work on enforcing criminal and civil provisions of the law against the landlord and possibly tenants who violate the law. So this is very important to, in coordination of activities of different law enforcement agencies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Arnold? No, seeing none. Arnold, once again, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you.
Next, I have Gian Pilleri. Hi, John. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Gian Pilleri. I live in Ward 11, University of Rosedale. And for transparency, I'm also a candidate for City Council in Ward 11. As a tenant myself, I know how vulnerable someone can feel when their housing is at risk. Tenants should not have to become a detective to prove that they were pushed out of their home unfairly. But it is usually them who must find the evidence and figure out where to take it. I support this motion in the request to examine whether rent safety officers can do more to help, but the report should look beyond a simple yes or no answer here. It should explain what officers would be legally allowed to investigate, what evidence they could collect, and how that evidence would reach the province, the police, or another appropriate authority. It should also identify the training, staffing, and privacy rules that will be required. The report must also address a major gap Rent-safe TO covers only certain larger apartment buildings. Many Torontonians rent condos, basement apartments, townhouses, or units in smaller buildings. Bad faith eviction can happen there too. If rent-safe TO officers cannot help those tenants, the report should clearly identify where they can turn instead. Any expanded role would also need clear safeguards. Tenants' information should be protected and used only for the housing problem they reported. Staff should also consider how tenants can be protected against retaliation from landlords. Tenants should not have to understand several different government systems before someone will help them. The report should consider whether the city can consider one clear starting point and help direct each complaint to the right place. Because this report may take many months, staff should also identify any practical steps that can be taken sooner. Please support this motion and ask staff to return with clear options, what rent-safe TO officers can legally do, which tenants they could help, how evidence would reach the right authority, and how tenants' privacy would be protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for John? No, thank you for your deputation. Morgan Mia. Morgan Mia? No? Okay. Cheryl Case. I thought I saw Cheryl a little while ago. Okay, I guess we'll just have to let that go. That completes the deputants. Are there any questions of staff? No? Councillor Matlow. Oh, sorry. Councillor Nunziata has a question.
Yes, so to staff, the recommendation that we have before us in this report, can you just comment on it and just explain to me exactly what the recommendations for detail to staff? Pardon? I can't hear you.
There's a revised version. Would you like us to give you that?
I don't have a revised version. Sorry.
Why don't we just take 30 seconds and share the revised motion with Councillor Nunziata? Yeah.
So to staff, even though I've seen the amendment in that, and thank you for that, but right now, when we meet with tenants and rent-safe attends these meetings, the information now from the Toronto Police is shared with city staff. Am I not correct? If we're in a building and where we have tenant meetings and there's issues, the information that the police is shared with the city?
Through the chair, my apologies if I'm not understanding the question. Things like contact information, the ability to if there are issues in a rent-safe TO building that could be enforceable by the police, we do inform tenants that they can go to the police. I'm not sure what is meant by what information from the police is shared with tenants.
But if the police have issues in a particular building, do they not share it with MOS if there's charges being laid, or they don't share that information? Or they don't tell you?
Through the chair, I think it's very case dependent. Oftentimes we do not have that information. There could be ongoing investigations by the police, and they wouldn't share that with us.
But we can ask for that information if we need it, right? We do?
Through the chair, we can. I'm not sure if they will share some information with us if they don't need to.
Okay, I have a different experience in my ward. I'll speak on it too. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff? No? Councillor Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to be moving an amendment that helps revise wording to deliberately sort of remove us from a debate over some of the concerns that we've been hearing and really focus on the intent of the motion to begin with, which is there's not so much about what the police tell us, and it's not at all about a focus on tenants other than protecting their rights and ensuring that they don't face illegal activity that is seen and then not conveyed to the proper authorities. This motion seeks to understand what our abilities are to use existing resources within our rent-safe TO staff to be able to, when they see or observe or are told about a potential crime being perpetrated toward them, toward tenants, whether it be illegal evictions through rent evictions. Often we hear about cases where landlord-owned use is done fraudulently, where a landlord will suggest that their daughter is moving in, and that is not the case, and they simply want to remove the tenant so they can up the price of the unit, along with other potential fraud or other types of criminal behavior. This is to seek to understand that as we have our professional staff in our buildings, working with tenants every day, hearing things, observing things, and being aware of things that really do need to go to the proper authorities, what ability we have to be able to contribute to ensuring that tenants have the protections that they need, and that fraud, no matter if it's some external, other type of contractual fraud or fraud when it comes to one's lease. White collar crime is still crime. And if you defraud somebody, that's covered under the criminal code. That's what I've read, that's what I've seen. And that should be something that we support. So this is about seeking information and just rather than have the debate in committee, let's seek staff's advice and legal staff's advice as to what opportunities we have to contribute to ensuring that if a tenant is facing criminal behavior from a landlord, and by the way, I just want to make it very clear, there are many good landlords in this city, and this is not casting aspersions to anyone who does, who's a decent person doing a good job. But unfortunately, we do hear many cases where somebody is subject to fraud from a landlord. ACTO, by the way, they wrote a letter. Well, my focus was initially on fraud. They submitted a letter which addresses other types of legal behavior. And I just want to read this here, that this motion could capture the case at 500 Dawes, which is now infamous, sadly, because of what they've gone through, where it took 15 years of complaints and fines before an order of incarceration was issued. So this is an example of how ineffective the landlord and tenant board often can be. So I look forward to hearing back through the next rent safe TO report as to what opportunities we have to contribute to an investigation done by, whether it be police or provincial officers, when a tenant is facing criminal behavior, including fraud or otherwise. And I think we have a responsibility to not only identify that this is a problem, but then see how we can be part of the solution.
Okay. Do you have any questions to the mover?
No, so.
Just want to speak?
Yeah, to the mover.
Okay,
So
yeah.
what you're asking for then is for staff to report back in 2027, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And if they're able to do that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, because there's been my intent with the initial wording of the motion is that we concluded that we do have the ability to do it. I've heard others question that or have concerns about other aspects of that. And so the revision is to ensure that at least the intent of the request be able to reach the next stone across the river, and that we seek the facts. So rather than debate it in lieu of that advice from staff along with our city staff, that we get that advice. And then if we are able to be contributors to the police or the province being able to move forward with investigations to support tenants who might be subject to fraud, that we're able to do our part. And I'd like to know that information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the item? No? I'm sorry, Cheryl. We're already working through lunch. We did call you and you weren't here. Okay. Councillor Matlow has moved a motion which I think strikes and replaces. Yeah? Yeah, okay. So on Councillor Matlow's motion, all those in favor, opposed, that carries. Okay, there's a suspicious number of public servants in the room. So that completes our agenda. I was handed a note. Chair, after the agenda is completed and prior to adjourning, can you call on Deputy City Manager Jag Sharma for an announcement, please?
Are you calling on me?
So Deputy City Manager Jag Sharma, do you have an announcement?
I do. And Councillor Perks, you caught us a little off guard because timing of pushing through lunch, I think, affected our ability to kind of get as many folks as we wanted. But we wanted to take the opportunity to not let you go scot-free. This is your last committee, and we wanted to say a few words about you and what you mean to us as from a staff perspective. And so before we conclude today's meeting, I'd like to take a moment to recognize you, Councillor Perks. As many of you know, Councillor Perks' final meeting as the chair of Planning and Housing Committee is today, and it wouldn't feel right if we let the moment pass without acknowledging his extraordinary contribution. Councillor Perks has served the people of Toronto for nearly 2 decades. Since first being elected in 2006, he has brought a remarkable depth of knowledge, conviction, and commitment to the work at City Hall, and we are thankful for that. Long before joining council, and Councillor Perks has certainly shared some stories around some of his activities, he was deeply engaged in shaping a better city and better environment. His work with organizations such as Pollution Probe, Greenpeace Canada, and Toronto Environmental Alliance, and the Better Transportation Coalition helped advance important conversations around recycling, air quality, pesticides, public transit, and suitable city building. And I believe Jason was on either the same side or the other side at one point.
And Councillor Matlow.
And Councillor Matlow as well. So these values have remained central throughout his career in public service. As chair of the Planning and Housing Committee, Councillor Perks has led some of the most significant and complex discussions facing our city: housing affordability, tenant protections, homelessness, planning reform, and public development, and the future growth of Toronto are not easy files. These require patience, courage, and a depth of understanding of public policy, quite often a willingness to ask difficult questions. Councillor Perks has never been afraid to ask difficult questions, and he has consistently reminded us that housing is not simply about buildings or unit counts. It's about people, dignity, stability, and the kind of city we want Toronto to become. His leadership has helped strengthen the city's focus on affordable and non-market housing, tenant protections, community-based housing solutions, and a stronger role for government in delivering public value. Councillor Perks has also brought something equally important to this committee: an extraordinary understanding of how this institution works. He knows about the policies, the history, the procedures, and the people. And I have to tell you, I've been awed at times with the information that he can produce around how things have evolved over time, and essentially that knowledge is incredible. He understands not only how decisions are made, but why they matter. His institutional knowledge has become invaluable to colleagues, staff, and everyone who has had the opportunity to work with him. Councillor Perks, on a personal note, it's been a privilege to work alongside with you. You have challenged us to think more deeply, to be more precise, to remain focused on people affected most by the decisions we make. You have always been direct, thoughtful, and deeply committed to the city. Even when discussions were difficult, there certainly have been many, you brought passion, intelligence, and unwavering belief in the importance of public service. Your contribution to Toronto extends far beyond any one committee, policy, or term of office. It has been seen in the communities that you have represented, the initiatives that you have championed, and the many people whose lives you have improved because you chose to serve. On behalf of the city's administration, the staff who have supported this committee, and everyone who has worked with you over the years, thank you for your leadership, for your dedication, and for your many years of service to Toronto. Congratulations on a well-deserved retirement, Councillor Perks. You will be missed, and your legacy will be long remembered. Thank you.
Okay, enough. You don't get the control in that.
So where's the cake?
And Jag, did he write that for you?
Look at all you beautiful people. So there is nothing in the country like Committee Room 1. It is just a magical place here. When I was a much younger person, I used to sit here and Howard Moscow would tell me that my 5 minutes were up. It's unique in how we govern ourselves to have a place like this where anybody at all in the city can just wander in and tell us what we can do differently and better. And at the same time, to have an open conversation between the people who actually run the city, the public service, and those of us who have big ideas and big egos who get elected. I have learned from the Toronto Public Service every day. Jesus, if you count my time as an activist for 40 years. For 40 years, I've been learning from you people. And I'm so greatly enriched from what you've taught me, when you challenged me, and on those occasions when you've listened to me. I'll miss you all. I'll miss this place. And as the saying goes, the work that's been done here while I've been chair, all the good work has been you and the mistakes have been mine. So thank you all. Thank you for the love and the passion you have for looking after each other in the City of Toronto. Be well. Oh, and we wouldn't have got any of it done without Nancy, who just told me that I haven't adjourned the meeting yet. So meeting adjourned.